So today, we're going to be talking about the Open Doors by Open Source program. On the lower left is Dr. Kinnis Gosha of Morehouse. And unfortunately, he fell sick. I was in denial thinking that he would be better, but unfortunately he won't be able to join us today. It's all good. So I am his partner in this program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the program. And also Whitney Nelson, who was an instructor of the program, is going to talk from her perspective as to what she saw and talk more about the curriculum. So we're sad that Dr. Gosha is sick and is not able to be with us. And at the same time, we're happy for him and his work in really developing Black coding talent. He did his undergraduate at Albany State, and he wanted more computer science. When he went to graduate school at Auburn, it was hit with the high expectation. So he struggled initially, but has done really well in his career. He has a ton of grants and ton of papers and just really been impactful in diversifying the computer science industry. So we're really super thankful for his efforts and the way that he gives back in creating more opportunities for students to engage in computer science. So my apologies that he's not with us today. So you'll have me, you'll have Whitney, and we'll make it work. So a little bit, so today we'll talk about the Open Doors by Open Source program. This is a glimpse inside the innovative program that paved new opportunities for Black coding students. So first of all, well, who are the project leads? So I was fortunate enough to lead this with Dr. Kinnis Gosha. He was the program lead of this project that was funded by the Sloan Foundation. So a huge thanks to the Sloan Foundation for supporting this effort. He led the day-to-day activities of the project. He's the Chenault Endowed Associate Professor of Computer Science at Morehouse College. He's also the Division Chair for Experiential Learning and Interdisciplinary Studies at Morehouse. He's been with the AUC Data Science Initiative since day 0 or even before that. And he's also serves currently as a member of the Faculty Advisory Board. So he's really been invested in the Data Science Initiative, and it's been a really great and just a joy to work with him as well as his team. So my name is Talitha Washington. I'm the director of the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative, and I'm a PI of this project. I'm also a professor of mathematics at Clark Atlanta University. A lot of my students actually go on to do something in coding or in data science or what have you. So I found that working in this project was really a neat experience to just work alongside and partner with a computer scientist in developing this program. So as they say, that teamwork makes the dream work. And so we had a great team of people shown on the right-hand side. So Whitney Nelson, who you'll hear from in a moment, she was the co-instructor, probably the instructor lead. She's also a research scientist and adjunct professor at Morehouse College. David Terry was a co-instructor. He's a research scientist and adjunct professor at Morehouse. Bettina Gardner is a program assistant, and she's also the administrative director here at the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative. Nicole Butler, she served as the program coordinator for the project, and she is the senior academic support specialist at Morehouse. Tommy Taylor did all things communications for the project, and he is the AUC Data Science Initiative communication specialist. We also were joined with Dr. Pat Campbell, who's our external evaluator, and she's of Campbell, Kiblitz and Associates. So it was really neat to bring his team, my team together to really just form a mega team, a mega strong team. We were also fortunate to have corporate sponsors who were really interested in supporting the students, helping develop the students and recruit them. So it's like, you want to recruit them, help us train them, help us figure out, well, what should go in the curriculum. So Dr. Gosha met with corporate partners before the program started to gain a better understanding of what industry professionals thought that students should go through. So he sat down, he had conversations with Google, for example, and they gave him some really good feedback of things to think about and things to consider in developing the program. Because the idea for this program was for post-baccalaureate students and connecting them with jobs in industry. So it made a lot of sense to sit down with industry professionals and say, okay, this is what we think we want to do. Now, what really is the pathway? What is that learning pathway that would position the students to get a position in a high-tech career? So first, let me back it up. Before we go into it, what is this thing of open source software? Well, we can think of open source software, it has like some sort of source code that anyone can access, use, inspect, modify, enhance, and distribute. So you can see, basically you can see under the hood of the car, and you can get to the engine and you can fix it, you can put things in, you can take things out, and you can tailor it to fit whatever situation that you're in. And you can then also then toss it back out into the ecosystem where somebody else can grab it, take it, modify, use it, and so on. And honestly, not all source code is open. Some, I don't think I can even get under the hood of my car anymore and get to the engine like I could back in the day. I'm from Indiana, so we do cars. But so you can think of proprietary software as more modern day car. But you can't get under the hood. It's a little bit, more challenging. So the open source software, it provides the user, the coder, or the person that's interacting with it a little bit more control. It also provides opportunities to train people and also to share. And also you get more security through transparency because you know what's happening, you know what's under the hood, you know what's in the engine, so to speak. Also can provide more stability. And you have this community of users and developers that contribute and that can share and can enhance and grow and also challenge each other in neat ways. So what are some open source tools in data science? Well, some programming languages that we like to use are R and Python. And there's also Apache Airflow. That's an open source workflow management platform for data engineering pipelines. And that was started by Airbnb back in 2014. Luigi is a Python module that helps build complex pipelines of batch jobs and handles dependency resolution, workflow management, and visualization. This was designed and used by Spotify. So we're seeing companies create these platforms and then toss them out into the public domain in the open source where people can contribute, add, and use it as they would like. So back to the Open Doors by Open Source program. So what were our goals? Well, our first goal was to develop and implement this open source software post-baccalaureate program with the intent to diversify the high-tech workforce. Oftentimes in a traditional computer science or traditional undergraduate program, students may not have interactions interacting in open source ecosystem, so to speak, where they're interacting with other coders, they're contributing, other people are contributing to their code. So the idea is, how can we train students? How can we engage students in this in meaningful ways? And then part two of the development, I guess that's the create part, I'm jumping to the bottom here, is how can then we take what we learn from the program and create course components to embed this software development into the undergraduate curriculum? How can we make this a part of the undergraduate experience? Also, our project goals including strengthening efforts to develop a well-skilled data science workforce through open source software development. Open source software development is an important skill to have in data science. So we just want to equip them. And we also had the intent to train Black computing students. Now, we didn't say only, right? Anybody could apply, that sort of thing. So that was not a part of the sorting process of who gets selected at all. But we were intentional in training Black computing graduates to prepare them for competitive positions at high-tech companies. And I'll tell you why. Well, there are some challenges that exist in this ecosystem of tech jobs. If we look at the NCSCS data, this is a plot going from 2009 through 2018. Now, the top purple dashed line, that's the proportion of computer science degrees awarded to Black recipients. Now, the top line is purple line, that's the US Black population proportion, 13.4%. Now let's jump down to these colored lines over here. This is the proportion awarded to Black recipients. If we look at undergraduate degrees, the proportion awarded to Black recipients is actually going down. That's a problem. And master's is kind of wiggling around, but it sure is not going up, and neither is the PhD. So something's happening where our students are not getting computer science degrees. What can we do in computer science programs to either make it more attractive, and also to think about ways to take the computer science curriculum and have it more connected with what they experience in industry? Because we know that industry is moving really fast, and tech expectations, skills, and development. How can we make sure that we are in sync in how we prepare our students and what we're preparing them for? So this is in my book, this is a problem. In 2020, the LA Times put out an article, "Why are Black and Latino people still kept out of the high tech industry?" So not only are we thinking pipeline, but there's also we don't have people in the tech industry. Well, but I said in the previous slide, Black Americans represent about 13% of the US population. Apple's workforce is 5% Black, but that includes retail employees. Amazon employs a lot of people, 800,000 people around the world, mostly in its low-wage warehouse and logistics job, and has a workforce that is 26.5% Black as a whole. But if you look at the managers, 8.3% are Black. On the right-hand side is a table, and again, this is all data from this article, where in tech companies, Google, 1.9% are Black employees, Salesforce, 2.9%, Facebook, 3.8%, Slack, 4.4%, Microsoft, 4.5%, Twitter, 6%. So something's not, let's say, this is a disproportionate in what we call an underrepresentation. Now, Lyft and Uber, it's a little bit better, but this is because it skews towards their lower paid operations. So it's an issue, not only in developing students, but also looking at tech talent in the industry. We see an underrepresentation of Blacks. And the article does say, I quote, "The problem is not a lack of qualified candidates, but the company's unwillingness to open the door." So this Open Doors by Open Source program that we developed really was intended to open the door to provide experiences for these students as a direct effort to diversify the tech workforce. So at Morehouse, now what are we seeing at Morehouse? So at Morehouse, these high-tech companies such as Google, Amazon, Facebook, well-intended, Microsoft, they do have aggressive diversity recruitment goals for entry-level software engineers. However, the lack of job offers is usually tied to the substandard performance on technical interviews. So in getting these tech positions, not only do you have to have the right preparation and things, you have what is called a technical interviews. Maybe it's, I guess, so maybe we'll call it the SAT of getting into the high-tech jobs. I'll call it that way. You can take it where you'd like. And so he experienced that some critical feedback from these interviews involves maybe there's some missing knowledge of advanced data structures and algorithm concepts, lack of experience with live technical interviews, or little programming experience outside of regular coursework. And I think also, I don't want to jump too far ahead, there's a confidence that students bring in when they take these tests, similar, that's why I akin it to the SAT. And how does that interplay when they do these technical interviews in that same way? That would be actually an interesting study. So I'm going to turn it over to Whitney Nelson, who's going to talk more about our program.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. So yes, I got to co-instruct the program this summer and work with the students every day. It was a really awesome experience seeing them grow and learn every day and learn different concepts. The overall, you can go to the next slide. The overall goal of the program was to boost tech talent and enhance their skills. So we worked closely with Dr. Gosha to make sure we built a curriculum that was tailored to their needs and just eventually help them break through the tech industry through all the things that they learned throughout the program and their experience. Next slide, please. So the program focused on open source software development. This is a really important and emerging field within the industry to gain different entry jobs into the careers in big tech. We gave each of the program participants a stipend of $3,000 for the full participation of the program. We also had, it was a full 10-week program from June 7th through August 13th last summer. It was a 40-hour commitment, so they didn't have a lot of time to have outside jobs and outside coursework. We really wanted to make sure we was maximizing the time that we spent with them. That's why they got a stipend. They also have weekly evaluations. So they had feedback that they gave us each week that we took in and took into consideration when we went into the next week to make sure that we were really understanding what they were struggling with or what any problems that they were currently going through. It was an adaptive learning environment with a flipped classroom. So they spent a lot of time outside of the Zoom calls and also spent some time learning on their own. And then we also had a lot of corporate engagement. So we wanted to put them in front of a lot of these big tech company names to make sure that they built some familiarity with these different companies. Next slide, please. So the program applicants. So we got a lot of applicants. It was 85 total. 84 of those were underrepresented groups, which is really cool. 49 of those applicants were from HBCUs. 68 graduated or will graduate in 2021, and 17 graduated in 2020. So this was also really important because we wanted to make sure that we were getting people who were just breaking through and starting their careers in the tech industry. 38 were female applicants and 46 were male applicants. We wanted to make sure that we also got a pretty even distribution gender-wise. And then we had a variety of majors throughout computing. So we had CS majors, we had software engineering, mathematics, computer engineering, just a wide range of computing backgrounds for this program. Next slide, please. So 32 participants actually completed were enrolled and completed the program, 17 of which were HBCU students. 10 were females and 22 were males. And then we also, again, had a different range of computing backgrounds, each of these students. So with some even had math backgrounds or double majored in math and computer science. Next slide. So the weekly schedule, each week, all of the programming was virtual. So we did spend some time on Zoom. We had daily stand-ups every day. And so we spent about 15 to 30 minutes having a check-in with the students to see if they were coming across any issues, of where they were in their assignments, and to kind of help and lead them and guide them into the correct direction. We had invited talks from those corporate speakers on Tuesdays and Thursdays. These were also about an hour to 2 hours, and were pretty interactive sessions where we talked about different things. The class sections where we actually taught about different topics were on Mondays and Wednesdays. And so we tried to maximize those times where we talked about to data structures, to open source development, and any other topic that deemed relevant at the time. We had flexible team meetings. So we had students from the West Coast and the East Coast. I believe we even had a student who went back and forth from Puerto Rico. So we wanted to make sure that we were allowing people to meet in their own time and make the time to meet in their teams to talk over different problems and get through their assignments together. So evaluations were due every Friday. These evaluations would give feedback from the students and we would basically kind of use this to review it over the weekend and change our curriculum on Monday to make sure that we're incorporating any of the challenges that they might be experiencing. We also had practice interviews on Fridays as well, and all times were in Eastern Standard Time. You can go to the next slide, please. So an example of what a week would look like, for week one, we had program orientation, of course, just getting to know the students, them getting to know us. We also had daily stand-ups every day, just to check in. We started them on Coursera courses on open source software development. So this was to make sure that they were getting a proper introduction to open source software development if they haven't had any experience before, or for them to kind of have a review session of different concepts within that domain if they haven't had practice with it in any time recently. We also introduced them to HackerRank. HackerRank is a really cool software that lets you practice coding problems. So this is really essential when it comes to the technical interview process. So we introduced them to different concepts in HackerRank, and this was really to also understand where they were and trying to teach them and lead them through those problems as well. We introduced them to Carrot and what Carrot was. Carrot is a company that helps with technical interviews, and it has mock interviews that students can partake in to help build their technical interviewing skills, and of course the weekly evaluations. Next slide, please. So the curriculum and pedagogy was very asynchronous. So we spent some time on Zoom, but we also spent a lot of time off of Zoom learning through platforms like Coursera. Coursera offers a host of different credentials and courses and programs that students can take and get different certifications for. So that also has that really cool feature too. We had some courses on open software development, agile software development, different programming topics. And we also had group time supervised by us, where we talked about different topics and helped with different group work as well. Next slide, please. So again, the weekly schedule, we had stand-ups at 11 a.m. every day, Eastern time. We thought this would best encompass the West Coast participants as well. Class sections on Monday and Wednesday, invited talks on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then every other Friday they had Carrot practice interviews, and we pretty much kind of let this day be open so that they could really make sure that they were taking the time out to prepare and learn from those Carrot interviews, and then evaluations on Monday. Next slide, please. So the technical interviews. So there were 4 total mock interviews that the students participated in throughout the program. Each of these interviews followed up, each of these mock interviews followed up the next week with Carrot actually coming back and going through the problem with the students. And so that if they had any question about the actual problem, they could get feedback from the interviewer themselves. We also Carrot also provided reports on the interviews. So we got feedback to see where they were and how they were doing. And then we had other companies who showed interest in giving technical interview prep sessions as well. We did have some job placement opportunities through HackerRank. HackerRank had a virtual career fair towards the end of the program, where they could come and talk to different companies and hopefully practice their technical interviews. Next slide, please. So program etiquette was pretty straightforward. We just asked for participants to be on time, cameras on for invited guests, to be engaged as much as possible, no cheating on code. We really wanted to make sure to emphasize that this was a learning process for all of the students, and there was essentially no reason to cheat. We wanted a positive attitude and to share feedback with us as much as possible, because we really wanted to make sure that we were flexible to their learning. And then program evaluations, weekly evaluations to make sure to evaluate what challenges they were having, but also what good directions they were going in as well. We had pre and post evaluations, and then we also had evaluations on the speakers to get feedback on how well they thought those sessions went too. Next slide. And now I'll pass it back to Dr. Washington to talk about the results.
Awesome, thank you. Now, I was remiss to say that Whitney Nelson is a proud graduate of Hampton University, and she also has a master's degree from Georgia Tech. So I forgot to say that. So thank you, that was great. So what were some of the program takeaways for the Open Doors by Open Source program? So what we wanted them to take away are some advanced programming concepts, interview strategies, collaborative, being able to work in this collaborative environment to develop an understanding of open source software development, and technical interview practice, and also to assess and review, revise and repeat. And think about these different emerging areas, creating a broader network both with the participants and with the speakers, and expanding their portfolio of work. So many of them would put their items on GitHub. Enter our micro-credentials. So in the upper right, we were able to provide each of the participants with an electronic badge for their program completion. So what was some of the feedback that we got from the students? And so this is a special thanks to Dr. Pat Campbell, who is our external evaluator, who's also online today. So what did we have on their professional skills? Well, half of those responding to the follow-up survey felt the program had positive impacts on their career advancement, primarily in terms of soft skills or professional skills, including interviewing, network, and writing resumes. Some people said, I've learned so much about the technical interview process. That is invaluable to me. I also increased my confidence in being able to apply for CS positions. Thank you so much. And I think before this program, it didn't occur to me the gap between the undergraduate experience and jumping over that bridge of this technical interview process. So one of the things that's been racking in my mind is how can we better develop collaborations with our career services so we can provide that training for our students. So it also, students also felt that it impacted their technical skills. So participants self-reported on their programming knowledge, and it didn't change that much. However, their knowledge of open source software development, GitHub, GitLab, self-balancing trees, big O notation significantly increased. So there were specific things that they really pointed out that really were enhanced as a result of this program. So one of the participants said, I've learned a lot more about different data structure and their pros and cons. And it's about providing these tools for students to get in, to use and feel comfort level. And now the hope is after the program, they will continue to use and grow. So what's the impact on participant employment? Because and again, one of our aims is to connect the participants with tech positions. As of November of last year, 4 participants have been offered and accepted tech positions. And this spring, Dr. Campbell will be doing a follow-up to update the information. Now, some of the students, even though it's supposed to be post-bac, we kind of widened it a little bit in certain cases. So couple students were rising seniors and some were actually in graduate programs. So we did widen it. I have a hard time saying no. We did widen it a little bit, but the main meat of the program participants, they were post-bac students. So some of the participants recommended to provide opportunities to participate in coding actual products. And after the program, have some job opportunities lined up. So actually have a direct path. And then maybe some next step beyond talking to employers, maybe a training program with industry where you could actually come in and apprentice for a year or do it like an internship. So somehow bridging the two. We were fortunate to work with Carrot, who created a program that interacted with students on preparing for the technical interviews. So 30 students participated. So 96 interviews taken on average 3.2 interviews per student. So multiple times so they could get feedback. And 17 students completed 4 interviews. So students improved. So 73% maintained or improved upon scores from the first interview. And then 82% either maintained or improved upon scores from the second interview. So after participating in this interview preparation, 72% said they felt more comfortable, 94% said they felt more prepared, 94% would participate again, and 100% would definitely recommend to a friend, which I think not only shows carries impact, but also training students to do this technical interview so that when they get in that situation, they don't go, boop, they actually go in, perform, do their thing, and they're able to display and demonstrate what they know, what they can do. So like I said, over half of all students completed the 4 interviews, and these were the different program stages. We had some surveys and questions. Why did you want to do this? They wanted to really just get that practice, and they wanted to improve on their skills. So this really was a key cornerstone program of this, of our summer experience. The majority of students maintained or improved upon their interview scores, which is great. We don't want to go down. And so this is the average interview improvement, either that maintained or improved. And then interview 1, going from part A to part B, 74%, and then 82% on interview 2, part A to part B. So the student perception of this experience, so 94% of students said they felt more prepared, 72% they felt more confident, and majority said they would do it again. So I think this really goes to interviewing can be very nerve-wracking, and it's not an easy experience. So you have to interview and demonstrate what you know. I remember as an undergrad, when I was in interview, my brain totally locked up and I didn't perform at all. I don't know what happened. But practicing helps the students go through the motions and understand, how to negotiate through the nervousness that will arise. It's inevitable. So we really are excited about this Open Doors by Open Source program. We're excited about what we have learned with the students. And really at the end of the day, it's providing these students opportunities and equipping them and upskilling them so they can go into these high-tech jobs, really again as an effort to diversify the tech workforce, as well as to at the same time learn about how can we incorporate these interactive open source software development experiences into our undergraduate curriculum. So with that, that ends the presentation. Before we go to questions, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Ballinger, who's the Deputy Director of the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative, and he's going to do a report out of the poll. Dr. Ballinger?
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go through a few questions that were included on our poll that we put out that you just answered, and review the results of those poll questions. So, okay, here we go. So question number 1, what is your status? So about 13% of our people that joined us today are currently enrolled students, and about 88% are graduated or working professionals. So a lot of working professionals that are here, and maybe you can provide some contacts and additional information that would support this program for students. If you're a student, what is your level? About 6% of students that joined us are sophomore, 6% are master's student, and 88% are currently not enrolled as students. Number 3, please select your gender. It looks like the ladies won this one out big time. So 75% female and 25% male, and 0% that did not identify as either male or female. And then number 4, where do you currently live? About 56% of our participants are in Georgia, 44% not in Georgia, but in the United States. So this crowd is entirely in the United States. And then what is your current open source coding knowledge? About 13% advanced, 56% basic, and then 31% no idea what in the world is open source. And then for question number 6, what do you think the percentage of Blacks that make up the high-tech workforce is? 25% answered 1 to 2%, 56% answered 7 to 9%, 19% answered 10 to 15%. So, and nobody answered at 36% or higher. So we're gonna keep that in mind, that question. What do you think the percentage of Blacks that make up the high-tech workforce is? So we'll answer that question a little bit later. All right, and number 7, what do you think, what did you find out about today? How did you find out about today's seminar? So about 25% from the BSI newsletter. So that means that our media is getting out really well. 0% from social media, 25% from the speakers. So Dr. Washington, you were out networking really well. And then 50% from email or word of mouth. So that means that we're really communicating within the AUC. So again, thank you for attending. Those were our poll results. And again, keep in mind that question about the percentage of Blacks in high tech that'll be answered in just a moment.
Great. Thank you so much for that report out. So Whitney, you want to come back on? So I think we have some questions, and if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the Q&A button there. So someone asked, greetings, will participants receive a copy of today's presentation and link? We will host it on our, it's hosted right now on our Facebook page, and it will also be hosted on our YouTube page. So you can check out the presentation there. And I see Dr. Campbell, Pat Campbell's here. She said, hello, it's been great to be a part of this team. Dr. Campbell's been great to have you. And Liz, hi Liz. She says, hi Talitha, thanks for presenting. Did you manage to implement the faculty curricular piece of the program? Would love to hear about these opportunities and challenges around this piece. Winnie, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to?
I can try to answer it. So how we engage the faculty. So the faculty was actually, really important part of this program as well, right? So we made sure to also do our due diligence in knowing that our background about the curriculum. And the most important thing was making sure that we were also engaging them with the corporate partners and as many people as possible about different subjects so that they would understand and also have the proper feedback that they needed.
Yeah. And the program had a faculty advisory board made up of members from across the AUC, Jay Nyes at Spelman, Kevin Womack at Morehouse, Angelita Howard at Morehouse School of Medicine, Eric Mins at Clark Atlanta, and I think also joined by Stephanie Sears of Clark Atlanta to help give feedback to guide the development of the program and to figure out, well, how can we take this and train faculty, get this in the curriculum? So Dr. Gosha is working right now putting some finishing touches on, what would a syllabus look like? How can we put this into the curriculum? We started the program. We're super thankful for Sloan, but we kind of started by fire. It was like, whoa, we got funded. Whoa, we have to do it. And so there was a lot that we learned, and he brought his team, I brought my team. The teams kind of came together, like figured out, well, how do we work together and how do we build this program? So really a lot of the focus and efforts was really on running the program. And now we've taken a step back. In December, we had a working retreat, and it was in person. We just spent all day down here at the gathering spot in Atlanta, where we talked about, well, what was the program? What worked? How should we think about it? And we were really pushed to think about how this can be done, not only in computer science, but across the fields and other disciplines. So the data science here in the AUC really does run across the disciplines. So how can we bring open source software development to students across the ecosystem? And so some of the things we may be thinking about moving forward is to provide workshops for faculty on doing it themselves, and then also maybe incentivize the development of either modules or courses around this topic. So there were challenges, time sometimes is not your friend, but really we had great people just committed to the program and committed to really just making it work. Okay, yeah, she said you were definitely drinking from the fire hose, which is good, keeps us moving. You've achieved so much in spite of that short prep period. Congrats on that. Looking forward to the cross ecosystem opportunities. Let's chat more. Yes, definitely. This was really, I thought it was a great experience just to learn, to figure out, well, how do we do this? How do we do this across institutions? So that was great. So somebody asked, will there be a 2022 cohort? We shall see. We got funding for 1 year. We don't know what's happening. In this environment, you don't know what's happening day by day, right? You just, yeah. So we don't know yet this summer if there's going to be 2022 cohort, what we're doing yet, unless, do you know some? I don't know.
Unfortunately not. No, I do not.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. So, if there's funding, that's another story. Great. And then somebody put, greetings, thank you for such an informative session. I wanted to know if Open Doors by Open Source is a good program for those brand new to data science. What do you think?
I would say absolutely. I think that there are plenty of data sets out there that are actually open source. There's plenty of tools that are free. I think that when you think about accessibility, this open source provides that as a platform. And when you're just learning these topics, you can start with small data sets that are accessible and free, and eventually move into spaces where you are working with large and huge data sets. But yes, I think working with open source development is a great step to understand how to work collaboratively as well, to work with different people, and eventually work with a bunch of different systems and technologies that will help build your skills for data science.
That's so true, because data science is one of those fields that's so wide, right? And I always use it in a bad way: artificial intelligence, machine learning, this, that, cyber, just put it all in there, right? Anything that has some sort of data effort. And it's one of those fields that's still budding and new, and you can get in at different places. So I totally agree that, yeah, definitely. So somebody asked, were all of the students computer science majors? How much and what effort did it take you to advertise and recruit students? So what do you think, Whitney? Were they all?
So no, all the students weren't computer science completely. Most of them did have computing backgrounds or some type of math background, because we wanted to make sure that everything wasn't new. We didn't want to ambush them within 10 weeks. So they did have some type of background or some type of knowledge with computing. And then how much and what effort did you take to advertise and recruit students? I know they put out several different social media campaigns and marketing campaigns. I'm pretty sure Nicole also emailed some people directly. So there was a lot of different ways that advertisements were used to recruit students through this program.
Yeah, Nicole Butler, she basically put together a list of all the chairs of computer science departments at HBCUs. And so that's not a trivial feat. And then Tommy Taylor, he did a social media campaign and reaching the students where they are, if they're on the gram, Instagram, or what have you, on different facets of social media. So he was able to really push it out and connect with audiences and nationwide. And we really didn't have that much time between we need to announce the program and we need applications in. It was a very small time window. So I think between, doing a direct reach to HBCU CS departments, and then also through the social media campaign, Yeah, that helped. Yeah, recruiting is not a trivial feat. We really sat down and Tommy came up with a plan and outlined kind of how we should be thinking about it. How should we brand this? So it's not trivial. And I know right now we're in the season where students are applying for NSF-RUs, research experience for undergraduates. And I know a lot of people are trying to advertise the RUs, and it's not trivial. There is a lot of time and effort going into that to make sure that people know so they can join in. Yeah. So Whitney, what was like the biggest surprise of the program? Like at what point you were like, oh, this is really cool. This is a pleasant surprise. So what was that moment for you in doing this program?
I think there were several moments. I think that there were a couple speakers that came in and had really impressive talks to the students that got them excited and talking in the Slack, and they're sending opportunities and talking amongst themselves. I think seeing that type of interaction was really important because I think that motivates people to get more interested and care about what they're learning as well. I think also working through the group projects. So I don't think this was mentioned, but the group projects were, we started with simple and like basic group projects, but the second project that we did was more centered around Black culture. And I think that a lot of the students also got really excited to be able to take on projects that were relatable to them. So I think there were several moments that were pretty breakthrough and exciting for a lot of the students, but especially the corporate engagement as well. I think a lot of people want to be in front of people who work at Microsoft or people who work at Google. So providing them with those opportunities was really cool to see too.
Awesome. That's great. So we'll have to see if it happens again this summer. But yeah, that engagement with corporate so they can actually see themselves kind of on the other side. It gives them an idea for persistence when the classes get hard or when the coding doesn't work. Goodness sakes. So when you were developing the curriculum, when you were developing these different learning opportunities for the students, what were some of the strategies that you used?
So I think the biggest strategy that we used was receiving student feedback. I think that we really tried to make sure that we understood what issues that they were having and letting them know that we can help them get through it. We didn't want anyone to get stuck at any point because that was the purpose of the program, right? Is to learn the topics that you already struggled with. And so we didn't mind having sessions multiple times. There were several times where we scheduled sessions outside of class sessions, one-on-ones, just really making sure that we were tailoring it to each person's experience, I think was the most impactful thing that we did when it comes to building the curriculum. And then I also think it's making sure that we're using emerging technology too. So making sure that they're introduced to HackerRank and they have those HackerRank profiles, and using GitHub as well, having those profiles, because that stands out on resumes too. Updating their LinkedIn's, their resumes. So there was a lot of different ways outside of just the data, like the computer science topics that mattered as well, that came along with this program. So I thought that was cool too.
So those items that you mentioned that come along with the program that really connects them with jobs and job opportunities, how much of that do you see that happens in I don't know if it's normal, but I'll say normal in a bad way, the normal undergraduate experience?
I don't think you get much of it in the undergraduate experience. I think that there are some programs that exist. I think that there's different ways to go after it. There's handbooks, there's YouTube, there's different ways that you can kind of go after it yourself, but I don't see it built into curriculum. And especially when it comes down to these technical interviews and being able to explain the code that you're talking about. I think that is a separate skill that you have to learn kind of on your own that a lot of people don't get help with. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love the idea of the integration of what they would experience in the workforce with what they experience in the classroom, right? So bringing that workforce environment and what does it mean to be a working professional, to have a GitHub, to have LinkedIn, to have these things, the HackerRank profiles. So because this is kind of what we do, right? But if you don't know to look for the YouTube channel that, you know, has the how-to, or if you don't know to look here, then how will you know, right? If you're just coming in cold at computer science because you're curious, how would you know? So providing that access for students to learn what they should be doing, and to actually provide those supports along their way so they can just do it, right? It's high expectations, high supports.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a great point of getting the work experience as well. When it comes to internships, you also have to have technical interview skills in order to get the internship. So there's just a lot of barriers that exist when you don't incorporate this within the curriculum as well.
Right, right. And I think what we learned was these barriers. How do we then, so we kind of dismantled some of those barriers this summer, but then how can we think about ways to integrate those into the undergraduate experience in a meaningful way? It's not something that's disjoint, oh, you go figure it out on your own, but something that's a part of, we expect to teach students how to do blah. We also expect to teach students how to develop into a professional, and these are the skills they need. So that's great. And Paul Brown, thank you, Dr. Brown. He said, love the program and all of those that work to make it happen. Thank you, thank you. And I guess with that, we're right here at the hour. Thank you, Professor Whitney Nelson, for joining us today and for sharing the information about the curriculum. And like I said, this will be posted on our YouTube channel, so you can check us out there, and also you can check us out on Facebook. I look forward to seeing everybody in a couple of weeks for the W.B. Du Bois Data Science Symposium. Have a great day.
Bye.